Guitar Collector Guy presents building a 3-position Les Paul wiring harness. If you like this video, click like, subscribe, and notify. Building the wiring harness for the 3-position switch is, to me, the most complex part of the Les Paul build project. The switch I purchased in this video turned out being a little different than the switch shown in most of the diagrams online. The posts for the output jack and the ground were at different ends of the switch. I start the project by having quality parts, including the braided cloth-covered pushback 22 AWG guitar wire. You'll need to prep 3 lengths of wire. I recommend cutting 2 lengths at 14 inches for the 2 volume controls and 1 length at 18 inches for the output jack. You can cut a lot shorter, but I like to have enough to easily feed through the guitar body and to work with when soldering to the wiring harness in the guitar's control cavity. As shown in the video, I use something like a small parts box to create a secure and stable surface to mount the switch to while soldering. I find this kind of as a must-have and something that really helps. The great thing about pushback wiring is just that. You do not have to do any stripping of wiring insulation. You just push it back, and then when done soldering, push the insulation forward so there's not any exposed wiring. I take the 3 lengths of wire and first push back the braided shield a couple inches, and I push back the cloth insulator around the center conductor to about ½ inch of wire is exposed. If the wire is not tinned, you'll now have to do that. Tinning is the act of twisting the exposed braided wires and then melting a small amount of solder the length of the exposed area of the wire. Why should you tin? I have a few reasons for myself on my projects. 1, it's easier to feed/thread braided wire through a hole that has been tinned than if it had not been tinned. You don't have like little segments of the wire getting caught. 2, when you solder the wire into the hole, the tin that you did to the wire, the solder helps the solder flow better when you're actually creating a secure solder point connection. For this build, I also cut a short length of 22 gauge wire to be used as a ground connecting point that I'll explain later in the video. Next, I feed the 2 shorter lengths of braided wire through the left and right terminals on the switch as shown in the video. The longer wire for the output jack is soldered to the center. On some models of the switches, as I explained before, this lug/terminal is on the other side of the switch, and this would actually be the ground. Once I'm finished attaching the 3 lengths of wire to the switch as shown, I then solder the 3 points in place, followed by then me pushing the cloth wire forward so it covers the exposed wire. Next, it's very important to label the 3 wires. Once you feed them through the channel in the guitar body, you'll not be able to tell which is which, other than one of them will be longer than the other 2. I place 3 pieces of masking tape, 1 for each length of wire, and then I label them as what they are. The center wire is the wire that'll go to the output jack. For a right-handed guitar, if the switch is facing away from you as shown in the video, the lug on the left is the neck pickup and the lug on the right is the bridge pickup. The next step is to ground the wiring assembly. I take the short length of 22 gauge wire that I pre-tinned and I insert one end in the ground lug of the switch. Once I inserted the wiring into the lug, I solder it in place. Next, I slide the 3 lengths of wire into a heat shrink tube, or I use electrical tape to tape them together. I use a tool like forceps, and I hold the 3 segments of wire together near the point where they meet the cloth insulator of the center wire. Once I have the wires secure, I solder the 3 braids together, followed by soldering the ground wire to the point where I just soldered the braids together. Last, I slide the heat shrink up and into place, followed by heating it with a heat gun so it shrinks and secures the 3 wires in place. Now we've made a very nice Les Paul 3-position wiring harness that's ready to be installed in your guitar project. Thank you for watching Guitar Collector Guy. Really appreciate you being here. Hope you come back and watch more. If you like this video, click like, subscribe, and notify.